Hey, what's up? It's MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. We are doing 20 questions with MJ, and my guest today is the incredibly accomplished Jordan Salcito. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. Jordan was a sommelier and manager at EMP, that's 11 Madison Park. Second EMP alumni we've had here. She was also the wine and beverage director for David Chang's Momofuku restaurants. Her wine program at Momofuku had been named a James Beard Foundation semi-finalist multiple times. And in 2017 was awarded Most Original Wine List in the World from World of Fine Wine. She is the host of the podcast Opening Up with Jordan Salcito. And she is the founder of Ramona, an organic Italian wine spritz, which is now available direct to consumers through their website. Welcome, Jordan. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you here. So we're going to just warm up. 20 questions with MJ.
I hope I don't get them wrong.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer. Just funny answers. What's your favorite book?
Oh, favorite book, I will say right now, is Homegoing.
Who's that by?
Oh, my gosh. Am I going to forget this? Can I Google it? Wait.
It's clearly your favorite.
I read it 2 years ago, but it's one, like, I can tell you the stories.
Okay. Well, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll find out who it is.
Okay.
All right.
It's Yagyasi is her name.
Wow. Okay. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is pontificate.
I'm going to think about that. What is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, I guess depends. The most recent movie I watched that I enjoyed was a documentary called The Social Dilemma.
Oh, yeah. That's about like screen time and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
And I would say, Shawshank Redemption's up there. When like Fish Called Wanda is up there. I feel like I was an amazing movie watcher in high school. Like I saw everything from like Biodome 2 to like actual good movies.
I don't know if that would make you an amazing movie.
No,
Make you a busy movie watcher.
That was what I did. I watched a lot of movies, and then I fell out of the habit. Anything Austin Powers, I would also put at the top of the list.
Cool. I love those. What is your least favorite word?
I can't. Or can't.
Got it. Who is your favorite musical artist?
Favorite musical artist is Beyonce.
Queen Bee. Cool. Who doesn't love Beyonce? Come on. What turns you on?
Oh, so many things. I guess curiosity.
Oh, I like that one. We've had like a lot of people say stuff like that. Like we've had, I guess, like an opinion, or like, what did James Molesworth say? That guy's, he's smart. Anyway, I forgot what he said. He's over my head. What is your favorite food or thing to eat?
Favorite food or thing to eat is so boring, but I guess this would also depend on mood, but I would say like vegetables. Very
boring.
Very boring.
Isn't that an Italian last name? I wanted pizza. It should people. It's like pizza, man. Go get us.
No, also like a delicious bowl of pasta, chicken soup, like things. I guess comfort foods. Lately.
Yeah. Got it.
Like this whole year has been a year.
Yeah, it's a year of
comfort food.
The COVID comfort food.
The COVID soup. Yeah.
15.
I will tell you that like a more interesting answer was tête de veau, and this is not something I like, but just so you know that I have been an adventurous eater in my day. And I remember when I was a line cook at Danielle, and when you're at the very bottom of the totem pole, but you work really hard, you get thrown the extra things, like the extra plate of foie gras that gets misfired. Mm-hmm. And one day there was tête de veau was the special, like head of veal, and it's this sort of pate made of all of the things that come from the head of the veal.
So eyes, tongue. Got it. Yeah. So okay, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
But there was like a very big string of eyelashes that ended up in the tête de veau, and that was
nice.
Yeah, it was less pleasant.
So that's the next question. What turns you off? Eyelash in your tête de veau?
Exactly. That would be at the top of the list.
All right. Who is your favorite athlete?
Ooh. Right now, I would say Kevin Love, the NBA
Yep,
player.
he's the wine drinker.
He is a wine drinker and a sweetheart and somebody who's advocating for mental health. And I love that he's using his platform for that.
Nice.
And then he's so accomplished and yet so vulnerable.
Very cool. All right. So, next question. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound. I have a 1-year-old and he makes the most hilarious noises. So he wakes up in the morning and he says, "Ba." And it's adorable.
Nice. Okay. When you were a kid, what was your favorite cartoon?
Scooby-Doo.
Nice. Okay. Now we're going to go back to what sound or noise do you hate?
What sound? I hate the sound of Azalto glass breaking.
Awesome. Say no more. That's just perfect. $150.
Exactly. It's really unpleasant.
Oh, it totally is. What was your favorite cold cereal growing up?
Oh, cold cereal. Like what I always wanted was Lucky Charms because it was never an available option for me. Yeah, we had very boring cereal.
So do we, but like you Lucky Charms, so you went over to someone's house for a little sleepover and they had Lucky Charms. You're like, give me the Lucky Charms.
Frosted Flakes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Or
gotcha.
like those, yeah.
Totally. All right. What's your favorite curse word?
Ooh, good question. I'd say damn is a good one.
A good damn. Yeah, if you say it right. If you say it like Florence on Good Times. Damn, damn, damn.
Or like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I feel like it's underused.
You know, I like that. Underused. Very cool. All right. What is your current exercise routine?
Okay. I love to walk as much as if I can get in 10,000 steps a day, that's great. And then I do a lot of like ballet, or there's this woman, Melissa Wood Tepperberg, and you can do these amazing workouts at home. And that has been really helpful, I would say, during quarantine.
Yeah, very cool. What profession other than your own would you attempt?
Law.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. All right. I can't read my own writing. That's the best. That is the best.
Glad it happens to you.
Favorite. I'm like paging Dr. MJ. Like literally is like Latin. So today we're gonna have 19 questions, MJ.
Right.
What profession would you not like to do?
What profession would I not like to do? I would say I would not like to oversee construction projects.
Okay. Who would you most like to drink a bottle of wine with?
Oprah.
Good answer. That was quick. She knew that one. And lastly, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, God, what a fun question. If heaven exists, what would I like to hear God say? The pearly gates.
Drink Ramona.
That's a good one. That would be pretty great if everyone in heaven drank Ramona. I love that image. What would I like him to say? Like it will all be okay, I guess. Or like everything is forgiven.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Nice. Very cool. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Now we're going to get into the show. All right, we're just going to reset and then...
nice fun warm-up.
Yeah.
It is a fun warm-up.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's fun to not know. Like, I definitely could have come up, like, in 10 minutes, I'm going to be like, I should have said that. I should have. How did I forget? Yagi Yasi, God damn it.
Listen, I was here with Amanda, and we're like, who makes Palm d'Or? Who makes Palm d'Or? Who makes Palm d'Or? I'm like, how do we both, two people, wives was like, fuck. And she was like, Nikki F. I mean, that was really bad. We're like, who makes Palm d'Or? Exactly. Yeah. So,
Nikki F.
Oh, I've been calling him Nicky F since the 90s. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to redo the intro, and then we're going to get going.
Perfect.
All right? Okay.
Did you want me to do a new okay, yeah, gotcha. Give me 1 second.
Happy birthday to your son.
Thank
From
you.
Instagram. I know
Thank you.
first birthdays are so fun. Are you smashing a cake? Doing a smash cake? What is
We should have done that. No, we did. Actually, my other son loves to bake, and so we made carrot cake, which he loves. So we did. It was like extra
Because his
carrots.
mom's favorite food is vegetables. It's kind of good. Your kids aren't in school yet. They get beat up. They're going to be trying to trade vegetables with kids on the playground. It's not going to work.
It's like, and I think it's a function of like having worked in great restaurants for so
Sure,
long, where
sure, I
it's
get
like,
it.
I don't ever want to eat another bite of foie gras. Like, I don't want that feeling. But like, there were so many times in my life where like all I wanted was to have access to a bite of foie gras, and like, I feel like I've like come over the bell curve.
Totally.
So just real quick before we start, though, I just wanted to.
What do you mean?
MJ is going to be breaking for a sponsor, which we don't really have to break, do we? No. So we'll just say it.
Yeah, I'll just say it, and then we'll get back in it.
And then we'll.
Perfect.
Just so you know. And then right towards the end, I will be doing like either a 10 or a 5, just to know what time.
Perfect.
All right.
Longer.
All
Okay.
right. We good? All right. Hey, everybody, what's up? It's MJ, and welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guest today is the incredibly accomplished Jordan Salcito. Jordan was a sommelier and manager at 11 Madison Park, known as EMP in the place to be in NYC, as well as the wine and beverage director for David Chang, who has a show called Ugly Delicious, Momofuko Restaurants. Her wine program at Momofuku had been named a James Beard Foundation semifinalist multiple times, and in 2017 it was awarded the most original wine list in the world from the World of Fine Wine. She is also a podcaster. She's the host of Opening Up with Jordan Salcito, and she is the founder of Ramona, an organic Italian wine spritz, which is now available direct to consumers through their website. Welcome, Jordan. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Jordan and I connected through Instagram. Go figure. Like every guest on the show I've connected with through Instagram. So, hey, you brought some Ramona, but you also brought a really great bottle of wine. Tell us about the bottle of wine you brought today.
Of course. All right. So this is the Bodega Chakra, the 55 Pinot Noir. Sorry. This is, should I re-say it? Okay. So it's a bottle of Pinot Noir from...
We keep it real. It's just raw. Just go, girl. It's okay.
That's why I signed that waiver. Everything you say will be used against you. So this was the first place where I worked harvest in... it's the only place I've worked harvest in the Southern Hemisphere, but for me, it was so eye-opening because, to your point, as we were talking about before we started recording, so the winemaker here is very much inspired by Burgundy. The grape is Pinot Noir here. It's these ungrafted 55-year-old vines. At this point, they're older than that. But when the winemaker bought the estate, then there were all these abandoned vines. And the whole estate is farmed biodynamically. The owner and the winemaker is a guy named Piero Incisa della Rocchetta, and his grandfather is the one who started Sassicaia. So there's this legacy of fine wine in his family, but he's this sort of renegade of the family and was like, yeah, I thanks, but I actually like Pinot Noir. I like Burgundy better. And the wines are wines that I've loved for a long time, but also... when you go and visit, for me, it was so eye-opening because everything in Patagonia, and particularly in this area, is ungrafted vines. So, so the process of growing new vines is just so fascinating. And so you just splice off a piece of a vine and you stick it in basically what looks like a big sandbox, and that's the nursery. And then the biodynamic preparations are so. You just get to be part of it and see it up in a way that's different from, at least for me, I always learn better if I can see it and experience it instead of just reading about it in a book.
Very nice. And I see on the back of this bottle that it is imported by Grand Cru Selections. Did a little homework. I didn't. So you have a very close tie to Grand Cru Selections, don't you?
Did your homework. A very handsome man oversees the portfolio at Grand Cru Selections. His name is Robert Bohr, and we've been married for 12 and a half years.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So thank you for bringing that bottle, and thanks for being here again. And, wow. So much going on in the world. We got COVID. We just had a crazy election.
Thank goodness we have a new incoming president.
Yeah. And, but you're a Somali, you're female. Been a lot of that going around, a lot of stuff in the news about that the past couple of weeks. And I following your feed, I know you're very you're politically conscious. You take a stand on some things. So I would love to hear what as someone who went through the Court of Master Sommelier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good thing. I think that this conversation is happening. Right. I feel like there have been so many reckonings in this year. And this one actually surprised me. I knew that the article was sort of in the works, and it's something that is very prevalent. I mean, that sort of, I think there is systemic sexism in the world. There is systemic racism in the world. And now I think having the conversation is helpful because now we can sort of start to unpack it and rework things. My experience, I did not share. And I never had any sort of experience.
You were fortunate not to. To have.
In terms of sexual assault through the court, what I definitely experienced was just the sort of systemic sexism that sounds like it's pretty rampant. Mm-hmm. For me, and I've thought about this a lot. Like, do I think there's a lot of talk about should the court be dismantled? Should it be just sort of blown up and rebuilt? And I think that there are conversations like that happening, which is not a bad thing. I think for me, the end of the day, I think there are also some great people in the court, and they are not the ones sort of charting the direction, but at least the purpose of the court for a while, I think, was really helpful because it did provide some structure for education and for studying in a world where everyone wants sort of a stamp of credibility. And I would say, like, my story with the court, I'm actually grateful for my experience with it in the sense that I went through the court. I was part of the last group of people. They sort of changed the rules, and I think it was 2014, which was the first year I took the master's exam. Mm-hmm. And you have to get invited to take the master's exam, and you take a year off after passing advanced, and I really learned a lot about blind tasting through initially failing the advanced exam blind tasting, which I think, the things that I think are really great about the court are the sort of the process. And that for me was true with blind tasting. Mm-hmm. I am a better taster as a result. And anyway, ended up in this exam and passed the tasting portion, but not the service or the theory. And then because I was part of this last year, I got to go on with the other group of people who in that year also passed one section, and everyone else then entered this new system of like pass theory, which was sort of like the golden gates, and then you can go through or not. And so I've taken the exam enough to know just how very different the exams can be from year to year, and how arbitrary service is. And that was my personal experience, was the year that we had opened Co. And and I was like on Zoom. I guess it was before Zoom. It was like Skype trainings with different colleagues across the country and mock exams and this and that. But really, it was like, the point of being, of passing the service exam is to show mastery of service. And having worked on John Reagan's team at 11 Madison Park the year we won the James Beard for service, and really just even working under John, who is so crazy service oriented, and really, I think a lot of people did not like his style. I can't say I enjoyed working under him at the time, but it's one of those things where it's sort of masochistic, but also you're learning a ton. So you're like, all right, it's fine. I'm so happy to be here because I'm getting an education. But with the service exam, the year that I ultimately did not pass on my third try, it was like I passed theory with flying colors. I passed the tasting, and then the service portion was the year that I had a James Beard Award or nomination for service. Bobby Stuckey had come in and said, "What you're doing at Co is the epitome of service nationwide."
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him because I was going to ask you about that. So one of the things how I think I actually found you on Instagram was Bobby Stuckey had reposted the article that you guys had. You interviewed him.
Oh yes,
about natural wine
for the Daily Beast.
Yes. So a couple of things you just said was very interesting, like the service part. And in that article, which I reread for the interview, he talks about service. Hospitality. First and foremost, it's about the guest.
Yes.
So let's talk about that article because I think you must have got some hate from some
totally
people.
From all these very crazy natural wine people. And by the way, I love natural wine. I like a lot of natural wines. But it's so funny how political it can be.
Yeah, but in that article, there's good wines in every price range and style. For me, that article though, Bobby, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, and we speak on Instagram, and I want to have him on the show. I'll go out there, or we'll do remote. He's an awesome dude. He's rad.
He's so great.
But when I see people I was on a Zoom with Michael Skurnick, and someone asked him about natural wines. Most high level wine people aren't feeling them though. Is that safe to say? Most, a majority. I can't say 100%, but had Dustin on. You want these wines good, but I think what you said earlier about people wanting a stamp of approval, and in this Insta world, and in that article you talk about people wanting to make a name for themselves, so they just find the funkiest wine because Rip Van Winkle was sold the land to Snuffy Smith, who then sold it to Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Rocky ripped out all the vines with his teeth, and so people come. The wine is more about the story than the wine, and I love why do you think? And we'll get into that because your wine is organic and and maybe so. Why do you think that has become such a big thing though? Why is it so polarizing?
Okay. I have a few philosophies, but I think a couple things, and also I think it's worth remembering that the thing that Bobby was attacking in that article was bad service. No,
100%.
And part of that is spewing information about a wine to tell a story that has nothing to do with the guest wants, and I think that's where he was going. My issue, and I think a lot of people's issue with the term natural wine, is that it literally doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't. And that's a problem because then you have all these other people sort of lobbying on and saying, no, it has to be natural or I don't drink it. And that is translating to, I would say, the misperception that anything that does not subscribe to this dogmatic term is by definition or by default not natural or unnatural, in the way that and I'm just going to use a mom term, but there's this company called Honest Diapers.
Yep.
And that, by definition, assumes that all other diapers are dishonest. And it's just not true. And so when you think about...
all those dirty diapers out there. All other diapers are already dirty.
I know. I like vegetables. I'm bringing up diaper analogies. Why did she come on the show? What I would say is...
Because moms listen to podcasts.
What I think is that... you have, and I'm not going to name this person, but like I'm thinking of a guy who loves to make natural wine, and so he's like this American guy, and he makes wine in a few different places, and he's like very much like whatever the thing of the moment is, he has the bullhorn in support of it. And he makes a natural wine with like shittily farmed grapes that are farmed with a whole bunch of chemicals. And I know more about this wine than I might, because you can find anything if you just ask a few questions. So it's like being positioned as this natural thing, whereas in fact it's like crappy grapes that are grown with a whole bunch of different chemicals, because like you sort of have to grow. You don't have to, but it's much harder to grow grapes in regions that aren't supposed to grow grapes without some sort of
what are you talking about? I got some grapes. I'm going to be a winemaker. I'm going to throw them in a barrel. I'm going to let them naturally ferment.
Exactly.
And that,
Yes.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And there are some amazing natural wines, and there are some amazing natural wines that would never call themselves natural wines.
Well, that's the point. So you'll be the first one. So what's the difference between biodynamic and natural? Like we said, natural is a bullshit term, but like biodynamic wines are
wines that are grown in the, so natural has to do with what happens in the winery, and biodynamic and organic have to do with what happens in the vineyard. And I guess in the U.S. there's like a crossover. So with organic, it has to be grown organically, but also you can't add any additional sulfites in the U.S., even though that's not true in Europe or other countries. So a natural wine just means like you get grapes from wherever you get them, and then you bring them to the winery and you don't add anything to the process. And so hopefully you've studied, and hopefully you know what you're doing, and hopefully the grapes that you're making this with are beautifully.
It's a whole lot of hope.
It's a lot of hope.
I mean, when you think about, like, since no one's really been making wine like that in the U.S. for years, like this is awesome. Where are you going to get a mentor to do it? Like, you going on kids going on YouTube and like, I'm going to make natural wine. Like,
well, and the other thing I remember, like when this sort of term was just starting to be used, and I was in France, and I went to Beaujolais because I wanted to taste at some of the wineries where I love the wines, and a wine I've loved for a very long time is produced by a gentleman named Jean Foyard. He makes some wines from Morgon.
Morgon.
Yes. And I asked him, I said, why is it that you make these gorgeous wines? And at the time there was a new wine shop. It was a natural wine shop. I had like totally took my paycheck and I went to this wine shop because I heard that they had, what is that wine that starts with an Auvernois? Can't believe I almost blinked on that. So I literally bought like 12 bottles of Auvernois retail from this store, and I was like, okay, they have Auvernois. This is like the cult wine that nobody can get a hold of. Whatever else I wonder what else he thinks is great. And I bought, another case of wines I'd never tried before or heard of that had cool labels and were supposed to be great. And I remember I was so excited because Robert, my husband, really hates natural wine. Like he will say that loud.
See, that's what I said. So like people who know wine don't really.
And I was going to like prove him wrong. And I was like, this is going to be so great. He's going to love it. And I opened it up, and we had just ordered like a pizza delivery. And I poured in a Zalto glass, and I take a sip. And it was clearly, there was like a very bad bacterial infection going on, to the point where I just had to spit the whole thing out and dump the rest down the drain. And that was that. But that was my first experience. And that's why I think natural wine can be polarizing, because part of it's skill set. But then the question with Morgon or with Jean Foyard was, I said, why is it that your wines are so beautiful and balanced? And he said, so much work has to go into the vineyard. So if you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know that, then that's a problem. But also the soil results in the pH of the wine, which is very important to how, the chemical makeup of a wine also informs very much what happens once it's in a bottle. Its longevity, so there's so many factors, and a basic understanding of chemistry is important, and so are many other things. And I think there was this like idea that like, oh, natural wine is better. This is wine for the people. And I feel like it adopted this populist sort of language.
Well, I love marketing, but marketing also ruins everything, So it's a catch-22. It's a slippery slope.
It is.
And, and you said something earlier, which I wholly agree with. Like, people don't realize how many organic and biodynamic wines out there that do not put that on their label, from Europe, that don't put on label because it would actually they're like, it's a fine wine. Like they're doing that because that's going to produce the best possible wine. It's not a marketing gimmick.
Yes.
And most people who, you know, I think I have this image in my head of like, kind of like the natural wine person, you know, and they really don't want to spend more than $15 on a bottle. And they're telling themselves, it's because I don't want chemicals in my body, you know, and I, nobody wants chemicals in their body, but at the end of the day, does the wine taste good? That's always my first criteria, you know, and I think that's what you get in a wine. You can get in some of these really awkward, poorly made natural wines, and you also get in like your supermarket wines, right? Like I had a wine. I've had a couple of celebrity wines recently because, you know, because I'm the black wine guy, and people like, these are black celebrities, and people are like, have you had this wine? And like, you know, and the wine was it was for people who don't drink wine. That's what I say. That's why I said this is for someone who doesn't drink wine to get to start moving them towards wine. But like, you know, it's the same thing when someone leaves too much residual sugar in their $12 bottle of red blend and they over oak it, you know. So it's just jammy vanilla-ness
with like oak essence.
Yeah, with like oak essence, right? So I think that's I think that becomes the issue. Like we love this wine, we love this product, we love what it does, and then, you know, and also it's a business, and then some people can run with certain things. So I want to get into something. I want to get into your wine, but before we do, I just have to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, so we were talking natural wines for the break. We're talking biodynamic wines. We're talking organic wines. Talk about Ramona.
Talk about Ramona. Okay, so Ramona, can I go back a little bit longer to the MS conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ramona starts with the year where I get feedback that I've not passed the
They
services.
threw shade. I saw something you read. They threw shade at you when you started talking about Ramona, right?
No, Ramona didn't exist yet.
Okay.
Ramona, no, they, it was, I was given feedback by a group of, there was one table, so I passed 2 tables and there are 3 tables, and I was given the feedback by one table that I didn't pass that one table because this particular group of people, or masters, did not think that I seemed like myself to them. And none of them have ever seen me work on the floor. And none of them also were working in restaurants. So it was sort of like, it was this very weird moment, and it was like a gut punch because I'd always heard like, the year you have fun is the year that you finally pass. And I was like, I had fun. I answered the questions right. Like nothing tripped me up. I had my tasting menu from Tasmania like locked in, like whatever question you were going to throw at me, I was going to answer correctly that year. And and it was also like the year where sort of like I'm going to pass this thing, and then I'm going to like think about a family. Like then the other things can happen, but it all rested upon this certification. And that was like the year where, and apparently that feedback has been very common. Like other people have gotten the feedback like, your suit, we didn't like your suit, and that kind of thing is super common in the court, which I just thought it was like particular to me. But and anyway, it was like I think 1 week after that is where I learned I was pregnant with my son Henry. And that was not planned. We were supposed to wait. I was going to pass. I was going to get this thing, but it was great. And I was in Italy for 2 reasons. One was for a wedding, but then I had sort of lobbed on this meeting to go visit a vineyard because of my other wine company that I don't focus on anymore, but in the same way, but called Bellis. So I was in Italy, and in the back of my head for years had been this idea of like, why is it I'm not really a beer person, but I'm a spritz person. And why is it that, like, in casual moments, the only option is sort of like beer? And as somebody who doesn't really like beer, I'd rather have like a bottle of sparkling water than like a bad glass of rosé. So
what are you talking about? It's rosé all day.
Know,
It's rosé season.
But like
girl.
back to like chemicals in your body, like I just know enough about what goes
I
into.
know. that whole thing.
That whole
I mean,
thing.
Rosé's been around since we've been making wine, and then all of a sudden, again, it just became this thing.
And it's great because it's this entry point, and then people are like, "Oh, I don't like wine, but I like rosé." And then it's like, "Oh, cool! If you like this rosé, maybe you'll like this one." And then it like we all learn in like this web-like fashion. So it was sort of this moment of realizing that did I want to pursue something as like did I really respect that feedback? And was there anything in that feedback that I could actually take and internalize and become better at my job as a result? And the answer was no. And this is an organization that my husband and I would sort of butt heads because I was like, no, I'm learning and it's the journey. And he was like, this is a ridiculous organization. Don't waste your time. You're better than this. And so that was sort of like an internal conversation we'd always have. But at the end, that moment for me was really powerful because it was like this moment of lack of power. And through lack of power, I think, comes creativity. And that was a moment where I was like, all right, do I want to go this path or do I want to create a thing that I wanted to create and had been too scared or too unfocused or too focused on the wrong thing? And so that actually ended up being this amazing moment to sort of say, actually, I'm gonna do this thing. I wish this thing existed. It doesn't. I drink sparkling water when I'd rather have something that's like a spritz or a beer alternative, but that doesn't trade down on value system. So back to organics, I knew from day one I wanted this to be organically farmed.
You know what? Hold on, pause for a second. You know what I heard in that story? What I heard in that story was, I got pregnant and it wasn't planned, so I knew I had to come up with a lighter drinking wine, so we don't slip up again. Not through pregnancy, like. We was popping too many bottles at night. We slipped up. I mean, I love my husband. I love my son. But, you know what? I'm going to help all the women out there.
No.
Because I don't want you getting pounded on shitty rosé, and singly, how did I do in the walk? How did I get here? So we have Ramona now.
We do, but also it's important to say that these are things I wanted before I knew I was pregnant. This was like I wanted a thing that was fun to drink in casual moments. That wasn't like, and I love a good margarita, but if I drink two, I'm sort of blasted, and then I'm not able to do the rest of what I was supposed to do that night. And so it's sort of like, yeah, I guess it was just a good reminder.
Sure.
And the other thing, I mean, it's like I was looking at this recently, but the wage gap really starts when a woman becomes pregnant. So 80% of the wage gap is a result of motherhood as opposed to just gender. And so that was sort of, for me, that was interesting. It was like, all right, how am I going to help rewrite this playbook is if I can write the rules, at least of my own world.
So you mentioned earlier, that's cool. You mentioned earlier you had this idea. So it's like, do you think you were always entrepreneurial or?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think, I'm remembering, actually my mom was reminding me of this. Like I used to sell, I would gather rocks with my sisters or we'd make cookies and sell them on the roadside when I was growing up. Because I think that was important to my parents as well. Neither of them grew up with very much money. And so it was very important to them that they understood that you make money by working or by having a thing to sell or add value to the world in some way. And my dad is in law and my mom's in education, but they were very good at least trying to instill values that they thought were helpful. And they also always encouraged whatever creative whim we had going on. There were always art projects involved in our childhood. Cool.
All right. So let's get a little bit more of the story. So you were in Italy. You had another wine called Bella. So you're over there and you're like, you know what? And you talk to Robert, your husband, and you're like, so what happened when you were in Italy?
Well, actually, Robert went home.
Okay.
And then I stayed in Italy, and that was really good thinking time.
Okay.
Do you ever have that where you get such a gut punch and your whole world that your game plan is erased in front of your eyes and you're like, all right, now what? And so I remember
story of my life.
And so you just sort of sit up.
Self-inflicted wounds, though. I punch myself in the gut. But anyway, totally.
But there's so much that comes out of that, right? Where it's okay, here are the limitations, grow within that. And so many good ideas come from that. And I don't know why, but it was I was falling asleep and I was super tired. I'm like a person who waits until I'm like a 1 a.m. kind of bedtime person. And it was late and I was falling asleep. And then like the name Ramona came back to me. And Ramona was the name of my little sister's childhood alter ego. When she was 5, she read these Ramona Quimby books. And Ramona Quimby was like the hilarious, mischievous little sister.
Ramona and Beezus.
Yes, exactly. So she was the Ramona of the family, and she got herself a Ramona.
There's
haircut.
another one for you guys. My producer's like, how the hell does MJ know
I'm
this
so
shit? That's super cool. So, but also, like I struggle with that because like I still have a day job. Like I would rather stay up late and when you're a mom now, so it's different, but like, because you're a little loopy, and when you're a little loopy, you slip into a little subconscious state, and then the ideas can come out.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I totally get that. So you remembered your sister.
My sister's name.
Her little it was Ramona. Awesome.
And it was like, it felt rebellious. It was like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like, I just spent my life like opening this 2 Michelin star wine program. And that was Dave's mandate. He was like, I want you to build me a great wine program. I want to be a place where people think to come for wine. And that was fun. And we succeeded in that. And then, so this very much felt like a rebellion or a mischievous sort of alter ego.
And it kind of, the logo it kind of looks like megaphones.
Totally.
Okay.
So the inspiration was the Russian constructivist posters.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah.
Because the whole point of that movement was this rejection of the notion that art belong to this elite group of people. And it's like, no. Fine art is for everyone. It can be on a poster. It can be on the side of a building.
And that's why there's graffiti all over the world now.
Yes, lots of it in the city. I love it though.
No, but I was in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and there's graffiti. There was a whole underground tunnel just filled with graffiti. Like, and that's like, because that's what you just said, like art, people began proving that art, and then and then wine is not. And wine is actually, it is for the people. Like not everybody can afford DRC and First Growth Bordeaux.
Totally.
And that shit is really good if you ever get a chance to taste it.
For sure.
But that's not what it's about. Like, we were talking about Zalto glass. You go to Italy, they're drinking out of little glasses, little square, round glasses, like little mason jars, and it's just, so you do that. It's based. I'm loving the story. You're just being rebellious.
Totally.
You're like, screw you. There's nothing wrong with my suit.
Yeah,
I'm going to start a company.
Yeah, like, do I really want to go? Like, do I want to like aspire to hopefully seem like myself to people who still continue?
Don't even know me.
Yeah, and so it's like that was just so bizarre. Like they couldn't come up with something that was like even more like lie, but make it compelling. Like, if that's really the answer, then like you're just embarrassing yourselves. Come on now. So so that was how Ramona started. And up to this point, so my harvest experience started in Burgundy when I was, I guess it was 2006 was the first time I worked harvest, and it was at Domaine de l'Arlot in Burgundy, and it was the last year of Pierre de Smet as the winemaker, and the next year I got to work with Elise de Monti, and the next year was like a little bit of Roumier and a little Lafon. And
what's that like working in Burgundy?
Oh my gosh, it's so inspiring. I mean, for me, that's what helped me fall in love with wine. I mean, my dad's dad, who I never met, made wine in his basement, and I never tried it, but I'm sure it was bad.
You mean your grandfather?
My grandfather. I know. I guess.
No, I know, but like I never met my grandparents. Yes. So I get what you said, but it's just funny how we describe people sometimes.
But I think I think to your point about DRC being so inaccessible, but like, yeah, you go to Burgundy and it's so. And I think this has changed in the last 15 years or so, but there's such a humility and such a reverence for the past and a respect for the process and a respect for the land and this understanding of like this bottle is a time capsule that represents this place and this period of time and the philosophy of this winemaker who made it. And there's so much understanding, and I think like it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole in Burgundy because everyone is warm and curiosity is rewarded.
Gotcha.
And that was, I guess, so interesting. But, back to natural wine. I know I'm like jumping back to another conversation, but I think one point of like, why did natural wine gain all this momentum, because I think the populist message of it is like, you don't have to drink DRC to drink great wine. You can drink this. It's natural.
Right, I
and,
agree,
and
yeah.
it's like, if we like peel back the nonsense, it's sort of saying like, I think like the beauty of natural wine is like, is like a value system, right? It's like the value system of DRC is focus and precision and organic farming and care and love. And that value system does not just have to apply to this particular incredible Grand Cru of Burgundy, but it can apply to a spritz in a can or anything
It can
else.
totally, I can see it applying to your spritz in a can, but I've had DRC. That shit is amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. And Dujac is amazing.
Oh my, Dujac.
And
Ponceau
and Ligier
Grevin.
Belair. No, they're all amazing.
No, I mean, but it's just,
And they're all different.
they're all different.
Yes.
And then, I'm throw shade at the, I know you like Kevin Love, but like,
And JJ, I should have said JJ Redick.
These dudes wouldn't be drinking wine if they wouldn't be drinking these wine if they had regular jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, okay, I love it, but like, you fucking make $10 million a year, bro. Like, it's more something that I'm drinking these wines. So I've had to work my way into the damn room, man. Like, who's that guy? Versus like, he must play basketball. Look how tall he is. No, but no, it's just, it's an interesting thing because again, we're so driven, like during the pandemic, lots of guys, JJ, Mello, Kevin, Kyle Zimo, Dwayne Wade. I mean, it's all good, man. But like,
no, you're right.
That's my hateration. I'm like, you didn't earn it, bro. You didn't work in a wine store. You didn't make $7 an hour. You didn't like work 6 hours. You just like, oh, I got all this money, and then like coach said, drink this, and like you were drinking Old E a week before, and now you're like, I only drink Latour. Anyway, no, I just had to do that for some controversy. Come on the show, guys. We could work it out, man. No. So how long has Ramona been? How long have you been around?
Okay, Ramona launched in 2016. It was a test batch. Test batch launched in 2016.
Okay.
And then we sold out before the next summer, which was a surprise. I was very surprised by that. And then we launched a new flavor. Let's see. So we started with ruby grapefruit, and the thought behind that is like it's sort of like Aperol but organic.
Mm-hmm.
There's like weird stuff in Aperol. Do you know there's coal tar in Aperol?
I had this part-time gig at Whole Foods because I was mis-selling wine.
Yes.
And so you find out they're like, oh, that's dirty. Like that product's dirty. Like there's a lot of stuff that's like got some weird stuff in it. Yeah. Like people are like, do you have Campari? Like, nope.
No, we don't. Yeah. FD and C40, I think it's in both. And there's also, you never know whether like that's just the American recipe.
Right.
It's like Haribo gummy bears. It's like you definitely don't want the American recipe. You want to get that shit in Germany in the airport and bring it home in your suitcase.
Right. So that's interesting. So then you said we're going to do more flavors, and then
we launched Sicilian lemon. Actually, we call it Meyer lemon, but it's made from organic Sicilian citrus fruit. And then blood orange is the most recent one.
I like blood orange. I'm gonna have to try it.
And it's like it's sort of like, I think of it as like a Negroni minus the gin and the hangover. But it's like made with organic Sicilian blood oranges, so it's like deep red in color, and it's like a little bit drier and more structured, and people think of it as really sweet, but that's only if you're using like fake blood oranges.
Yeah, no, blood oranges they're tart.
They are. They're tart. Yeah. No. So and then we did a dry version of grapefruit in the spring. I guess we launched it in June of this year, sort of quietly because it was June of this year. But
yeah. I put a kibosh on a lot of people's plans, and and it's good you were respectful. I mean, it was like we're not gonna be like we don't care.
No.
About that 8 minutes 46 seconds. We gotta launch our brand.
No, but what a freaking wake up call. It's like I guess I think for hopefully the country, and that's why I'm like surprised that 70 million people didn't vote the right direction. I'm obviously
they voted the direction they wanted to vote. And that, I mean, it's one of those things where like, I talk about this all. I don't talk about it all the time, but like, I mean, like when Rodney King happened, like we're like, yeah, cops been whipping our ass for years. Like it's not really a surprise to us. And the same conversation was going on. Like, well, you didn't see what happened before the videotape started rolling. Like people would say that crazy shit, right? But like, I didn't see it for like a month. I couldn't even watch it, And then I finally, Chappelle talked about it, and then I was just like, and you really think about like. And then when you watch the video to see someone just like executing somebody, and like you can't like, I don't care. He could have, Ted Bundy went to trial. Like I don't care what he did. Why he didn't go to like why
is he off on bail right now?
Right. It's just one of those things. So yeah, I know a lot of stuff was we still have COVID and we have all this stuff going on. So you launched it quietly and that's cool. And then where are you at now? Coming into the end of the year, sliding into Thanksgiving and 2021. And
I feel like this is our moment of like, okay, cool. As we head into lockdown number 2, like we have now, we've launched direct to consumer. And so now we can actually ship out Ramona from the website, which is exciting for us.
Well, that's, let me ask you, so that's kind of like a big deal. That's got to be a big deal because like I know some like, you've seen my Instagram. Like my wine country was California. I lived in Santa Barbara. I love the Central Coast, so I got all this cult stuff. And like, at least half the shit I buy, I have to have shipped to my buddy's house in New York. It can't come to Jersey. It's like if you're a small winery, it can be expensive you can't ship to all states. So you got obviously you got something going on there where you got a little something going on. So congratulations on that because I know that's huge and particularly. Even after COVID, I think people's buying habits are going to change.
Yeah.
So kudos for that, pulling that one off.
Thank you. You reminded me of another book that I did not mention, but I read.
This is in the extra bonus material that you guys will have to.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up afterwards.
No, you can bring the book up.
I'll just bring up the author, James Baldwin, and I was so shocked that like, why is that not part of the lexicon for like everyone reading everything? Like, what a beautiful writer! And the thing that shocked me so much was the fact, I mean, to your point about Rodney King, like the way in which like nothing has changed since he wrote, since he lived and wrote.
Yeah,
Little.
It's pretty telling. Yeah. Pretty telling. All right, so let's celebrate some more. Tell me about this best wine list, most original wine list thing you won here.
Oh, that was such a fun one to put together. Okay, so this was the mandate from Dave, was make me a great wine list, make me a great wine program. And I really want to give a shout out to Sue Wong Ruiz, who is to this day, and also Sean Gray, who's the chef. But Sue Wong Ruiz is the general manager of Co. And she is so meticulous and so thoughtful. And she and I just worked through, when you find these people and you just work really well with them. And
yes.
So she's still
shout out to Necessary Media.
Oh, and so she's just like a sister of mine in a way.
Yep, I hear you. Yeah,
and
because that's important. People especially when you're an entrepreneur, because you're out there. Yep. You're an entrepreneur. You're an artist. You're out there, and like not everybody's gonna get you, and like most people aren't. And when you find that synergy, so that's and the trust that it takes, because you're putting together this wine list for them.
Yes,
that's really cool.
Well, and our philosophy was and I was sort of trying to unpack, and it's like, what is it about wine or a bottle of wine that resonates with me personally, and how can that translate into any guest who comes through the doors? And sort of where I ended up was that, okay, I feel like I have a connection or a special love with any bottle of wine where I know the producer and I believe in this producer and I learn from them and I love the philosophy. It's like, so how can I sort of bring that connection to the book or to the wine book, and how do we make it? Because like it went through a few drafts, and the first draft was like a whole bunch of text.
How many wines was on that list when you won the award?
I don't know. I mean, several hundred, maybe 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. And we had, I had so much fun putting it together because when you oversee a wine program for several restaurants, it's always like a jockeying game. And like nobody says this, you're not supposed to say it, but it's like, okay, you can have 2 bottles of Ganavat, but you have to put this shitty wine by the glass.
No, I know. Yeah, that's the game.
Yeah,
It's like when I worked
exactly.
retail, it's like you want a case of Turley Hayne, yeah, buy 25 cases of
This thing you don't want.
this thing you don't want.
And so
We used to call that the DI, dump immediately.
well, that was like the thing I think, like, and I won't say the restaurant, but so many restaurants where I like sort of saw the wine program from afar, that was like the strategy of the tasting menu. It was like, what do we have to get rid of? Great, put it on with the Flute Crudo, and that was like the end of that. But with Co, I think enough people wanted to, like the wines from their distribution portfolio on that list that I got to be really picky. And then also I was able to buy some things at auction. There was like a great auction that went up, and I bought a bunch of stuff and was able to store it beforehand. So it was really
That must be fun.
It was so fun.
Here's $100K. Go
Yeah.
buy some old vintages of stuff.
It was awesome. And the goal, like the thing about back to like boundaries, one thing that was always true of Co was the sort of the physical boundary of the original space. It was tiny. It was the original noodle bar. And Dave's philosophy about Co was that through limitation and boundaries comes the best thing. And so you would just try it out and you would make a bunch of iterations and it would have to be great. And actually Dave, and this was like something that I held true with Ramona, Dave would hide behind the glass wall of Co. There's like a wall that separates the dining room from the kitchen. And he would spy on guests. And he would watch their reaction when they took a bite of something. And so if he wasn't sure about a dish, he would just spy on 20 people eating it.
That's so funny.
And he would watch their reaction.
Like I lived in LA briefly too, and I remember you would go to like the ArcLight down in Hollywood, and like actors would come in and like watch their scene and then leave, like see the reaction. Totally.
Wow.
Totally. They will watch their scene,
Yes.
see the reaction, and leave. It's and I think that's people who care about what they do, the
Yeah.
art. They want to see the actual feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Like not even like the focus group. Like they're going to go in the theater, be in a theater with people, and see how they react. So that's so
Exactly.
funny that he did that.
Exactly. And so I would do that with Ramona, where I'd be like, oh, try this thing. It's like, I guess it's new or whatever. And then you just spy on people and you see it. And that's the real-time feedback. But with Co, the point of Co, or sort of the philosophy, and I wanted to always make sure I took my direction from the philosophy of the restaurant, that because the wine was not to inform the restaurant was to inform everything else. And it was always about the best. It's like, what is the best iteration of this thing? And so that's what I just did with the wine list, where it's like, what are the best examples? And also, because different dishes, like there was this one, it was uni with a chickpea hosan, but it was an iteration of a dish that Dave had tried that was chickpeas and red ruby shrimp when he was in Liguria. So he tried this dish and then he remembered it, and it was this umami and the saline quality. And then that, through many iterations, became... He was a famous chef whose name I'm forgetting, but effectively you have this sort of lineage through chefs, and that results
Liguria, that's part of Italy, right?
part of Italy. The sort
Boyardee, it was Chef Boyardee. No, it wasn't Chef Boyardee. Guys. What wine did you pair with that? I'm just curious because
I
you're talking about these
paired-
saline quality and
Yeah, this was one. All right, so a couple different things, but the very first iteration of this, it was when I would rinse the glass with Vin Jaune and then pour a Cremant de Jura inside, and we did that with Ganavat for a while, and then we
Wow.
did it, and that actually came through when the first iteration of the tasting menu in the old space, where we did all sparkling wines, because it was sort of like, can we do it? Can we do it and have it be great? Not just for the sake of doing it, but like to do it, put these limitations on ourselves, and then excel. And there was this dish, a soup. It was a green pepper soup with brioche and orange gelée. And then everything we tried with it was bad. And that was, I think, the point. The chefs were always like testing me and like, see what happens now. Like, here's something impossible. And so I remember freaking out and then reading this book where it talked about the molecular complexity of Oloroso sherry. And I felt like sherry is going to be way too overpowering. It's a super high alcohol fortified wine, but what could give us potentially the oxidative quality of that without being too overpowering? And so much of it was like the aromatic quality. And so I tried Vengeance, rinsed the glass with it. And this was after trying probably 50 different sparkling wines that all tasted bad with that dish. But we found that if you rinse the glass with Oloroso sherry, if you rinse the glass with a Vengeance and then you poured in the sparkling Cremant de Giraffe, and I liked doing the same producer because I felt like there was a continuity in that glass.
Sure.
And it was great. And it was so great that like every skeptic was then on board. And this was where Sue was so helpful because she and I would go back and forth, and she's like the gentle skeptic who would voice her opinion or her questions or her potential resistance in a way that was always so respectful, but also very honest and boundary pushing. And so just as I would think I'd had this great idea, she'd be like, what do you think about, here's why I think that might not work. And then it was a very good example of like working through to find the best scenario.
Something you said, I just finished Matthew McConaughey's book, believe it or not. I didn't realize how smart that guy was. Mm-hmm. There's a book just came out.
Which one?
It's called Green Lights.
Okay.
And something you said, and you said it a few times, and he talks about that, like, freedom comes from boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, we need gravity to be able to walk. We need gravity to be able to fly.
Yes.
And so like them putting you in the box of this is what you're working with, and it forces creativity.
Yes.
Boundaries forces creativity.
Yes.
Because you want to push them. You want to. People go, oh, I gotta have a breakthrough. Well, maybe just touch the glass. Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need to touch the glass, touch the walls.
Yes.
And because you need to know where they are, and then you can figure out how you can manipulate them. So that just kind of reminded me of that because I'm listening to it for the second time, and I heard that passage, and it's funny you bring up like the boundaries really are what give you freedom. Like it's like, oh, you come up against a boundary, you can do a couple of things. Like it happened with the Court of Master Sommelier. You could have like kept trying to move forward, move through, conform, wear the right skirt and blouse combination, the perfect 2.5-inch heel with whatever to please whoever shows up that day. Or you're like, you know what? Thank you.
Exactly.
Thanks for the feedback.
Exactly.
And not in that like snarky like, thanks for it. It's like, no, sometimes you're just getting these messages like it's time to do your thing. So
and like how can you better serve the world? Like is that the path to serving the world, or is it not? Like how can we create value for others?
And so you said that like it's interesting. I'll just finish up here, but like you've had all these successes. You've shared about the how you, and it's so funny. Like most people pass service first. It's like the blind tasting is like the hardest part. Like usually for most people. So was there ever a time you thought about completely walking away from the wine business, or you just knew you loved? I mean, I don't.
No, I did go through a phase after 11 Madison Park where I wanted to go to business school. I thought that's what I want to do. I want to like have a formal business degree. Mm. And then the market tanked. It was like, I guess it would have been fall of 08. Mm-hmm. And very quickly after that is when I realized, okay, that's not the right financial decision right now. But also, and this is like my husband, Robert, like stepping in and saying, look, you're telling me you want to go to business school, spend this many thousands of dollars. $200,000 to then come back to the industry you're in. Why don't you make money, stay in the industry, learn on the job, and then decide from there, which was wise advice.
Wow, it's interesting. It's interesting. That's cool. And I think that is wise. I think as someone who has an advanced degree and doesn't use it, I think, you don't learn your lesson. You don't learn your lesson about reading about it and taking a test on it, to be honest with you,
It's a helpful milestone.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. Also, I think it's a system we kind of grew up in where we,
totally.
There used to be apprentice. You just apprenticed. You wanted to be a lawyer. You got a lawyer to hire you, and you were apprentice.
Yes.
You wanted to be a doctor. You go learn how to saw people. It was very rustic, but like it became a business. I mean, there's a point where it's like, we could make money off of this. Yep. And even I think it's great. You've said before, science. There's so much science and chemistry and wine. But it was like we make wine. You learned from your father, who learned from his father.
And wine will make itself if you literally leave grapes on the counter.
So Yeah, that's cool. So you were gonna, but you said you were gonna go to business school, but you want to come back and start a wine business.
Yeah, and I didn't know what kind of wine business I wanted to start. But Robert
Yeah,
was just-
he saved you.
He did. He was like, listen to yourself and go reflect on that. You want to leave what you're doing so you can spend a whole bunch of money, walk away for 2 years, and come back to exactly what you're doing. Think of how illogical that is.
Yeah.
But I think it was like the quest for, I don't know, the quest for education or like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I did ever go to business school, I would learn so much. I'm sure there's so much value in that. But I think for anyone who wants to be in the wine industry, it is very helpful to just continue on in the wine industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's persistence.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to put in the work, though. People think it's just drinking wine. It's not just drinking wine.
No.
You know, it's studying wine and it's being able to relate to people. It's a people business.
Yes.
It's, how long can you want people, and if you don't love people, you shouldn't be in the wine business, to be honest with you.
Because it's a service business.
It's a service business. And, when you go, like you said, when you're in Burgundy, you go visit people in the vineyards, the people, they want to have connection, they want to meet people, they want, and like you said, the humility, of people. So, oh my God, that really flew by.
It flew by. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Jordan, tell people where they can find you and how they can be a part of what you're doing.
Oh my goodness. All right. On Instagram at Jordan Salcito, or at Drink Ramona, and be sure to share this podcast with friends if you enjoyed your listening. And thanks so much for tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So everybody, this is MJ. Until the next time, here's a big cheers to the Mavericks, the philosophers, and the deep thinkers, and of course, all you wine drinkers.